Well, let's get started. Welcome to Rise with Hope. I'm your host, Aisha Nixon. Ladies, we are blessed to continue with our series of Dare to Dream. I hope that you've had a chance to look at the first two episodes. This is a topic that is so dear to my heart and important. And today we'll be hearing from Shelley-Ann Brown, our special guest, an Olympic silver medalist in the Vancouver 2010 Games. And she'll be sharing with us about her story tonight on Dare to Dream Part 3. Shelley-Ann, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And so let's get started. And so we want the audience to know a bit more about who you are before I get into the role of all the various questions. So tell us three things about yourself.
Okay. Well, I am a teacher. That's what I do for a living right now. I'm teaching grade 7, and I love what I do. I also am a the worship director for my church, which is Grace Life Center in Scarborough. And despite what I might have done in my athletic career, I actually hate the cold. So I do not like to be cold at all. It's pretty funny that I ended up doing what I did. But,
Interesting, interesting. And so we're going to hear, ladies, more about how that is kind of like an oxymoron because with the route that Shelly Ann took, um, there was a lot of her having to be in the cold in doing the sport that she did. And so that leads us into the question, Shelly Ann, what did you dare to dream and explain it to our audience?
sure. Well, I dared to dream that I could be an Olympian and represent Canada. And so my path to the Olympics was not straightforward. It was very, had lots of twists and turns, but I was a track and field athlete for many years growing up and went away to school, to university, and was a sprinter and a hurdler. And I definitely thought that would be my path forward. But as I got to the end of my collegiate career, and was making that transition from elite, collegiate, elite junior to trying to step into the international stage as a senior, things were not going quite as smoothly as I would have hoped. And I thought, okay, maybe this was sort of the end of that journey. And I was recruited to the Canadian bobsled team by a member. She was a member of the Canadian bobsled team. And she actually called me while I was at school. I went to school in Nebraska. So I was at the University of Nebraska. And she called me. And I don't know actually how she got my number. She called me there and asked if I would like to try out for the bobsled team. And I was like, isn't that in the winter? No, I don't want to do that. And then so I actually did say no the first time that I was asked. And then about 3 years later, I went on, I finished up my undergrad and then did my master's degree. And at the end of that, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to stay in the United States or come back home. And I had served throughout my graduate career as a strength and conditioning trainer at the university. So I was coaching, I was in the gym all the time. And by that time, I just loved working out and being, staying fast and strong. So I was really weighing my options, and I actually had applied to stay in the States, but I couldn't. I wasn't seeing my visa come at all. And finally, my parents were like, Shelley, just come home. And I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna come home. And so I came home, and the day after I got home, I got another phone call from the same woman 3 years later. And she
Wow.
was like, hi, I don't know if you remember me. My name is Suzanne. I ran into my high school coach. She ran into him at OFSA, and they got talking, had a conversation, and he said, I don't know where she is right now, but I used to coach this girl in high school. Her name was Shelley-Ann Brown. She would make an amazing bobsledder. And she's like, I tried to reach out to her. Do you have her number? So he said, I don't know where she is, but here's her home phone number. I don't know if you'll get her or not. And the day she called me was the day after I got home from Nebraska. And she said, would you like to try bobsledding now? And I was like, okay, I think God wants me to try bobsledding. So so I went out, and I had no idea what it was going to be. I tried out for the team, and I ended up making the Canadian bobsled team. And the woman that recruited me didn't make the team.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, yeah, so it was very interesting
Yeah.
um, sequence of events that led to me joining that team. Mhm.
Wow, amazing. So, ladies, as you heard what Shelley-Ann dared to dream, and I just want to encourage you to say, dream big. Also, in dreaming, as Shelley-Ann said, like the journey wasn't smooth, but there are twists and turns. And that might be what's going on with you. And you may be thinking, I may never get to the point that I need to get because of the direction that I'm going in. But as Shelley-Ann indicated, like stay the course because you don't know, you know, um, what can come out of it. And what came out of it, Shelley-Ann wasn't sure whether to stay in the States or Canada. That door closed in the States, and sometimes we may think like, what is going on? But the Lord had a different plan for her. And then she said when she got back home, it wasn't even like so many days later, she said the day after she got home, the phone rang, and it was the same lady that called her 3 years before. And so, listen, ladies, when God has a plan for your life, it will come to pass, and we just have to partner with Him. And this is all part of the dream of wanting to be an Olympian. From what age, Shelley-Ann, did that dream did that seed of a dream just was birthed in you?
So I remember, so I have two early memories. One is super early and fuzzy, and I was we were living in we had a very large TV, I guess. Maybe it just seemed large to me because I was very small. The Olympics were on TV and weightlifting was happening, and I remember saying to whoever was around, "I can lift the TV," because they were lifting weights on it, and nobody paid attention. And then, and I lifted I actually did lift the TV and I dropped it, of course, because it was small. So I lifted it and dropped it. And then we didn't have a TV for a while. But my first so that was the first fuzzy memory. But my first clear memory where I was like, I want to do this was watching Ben Johnson actually
Mm,
at the Seoul Olympic Games. And
mhm.
I just remember like the lead up to it and all of those backstories that they do on and showing him and his family's home and his mother, and she sounded like my family, and it was there was so much affinity there. I was like, oh, I saw myself. And then we were so excited, and then everybody was so excited for him, and he crossed the finish line with his finger up in the air. And I remember doing laps around our coffee table in the family room with my finger in the air. And that was the first time that I thought that's what I want to do, or I would this would be a great I would like this. And then I had no idea. I loved running, but I didn't do anything competitive until actually I moved to Pickering. So at the time my family was in Scarborough still. And but my brother, I would follow him everywhere. He was like, everybody looks up to their older brother. So I just followed him everywhere he went. And I would do like recess, running against the boys at recess and stuff like that. And I liked running. I liked winning. And but I remember following him to track practice. And then that was sort of like, oh, he would tell people, my sister's really fast, my sister's really fast. So he sort of brought me into the world of track and field. Um, and that's kind of how that dream got started, where especially when I moved to Pickering and I started to compete,
Mhm.
that's when I thought, this would be fun.
That's amazing. Awesome. And so in um you getting that phone call and then you making the team being recruited to be part of the bobsleigh team, what did it take to accomplish your dream in terms of experience, training, and even the mindset that you had to have?
Yeah, it was every stage of athletics that I went through my life, I feel like, it was another step, another elevation, and I
Mm,
learned more and more. So when I was younger and I was just running, I had no concept of like, training hard or anything like that. I just thought like you show up, and if I'm faster than you, I'll win, and if you're faster than me, I'll win, and you just hope you just but I never really took, if I'm honest, throughout high school, I never really took training very seriously. Um, until I got to the States, and then I had no choice.
Yeah.
And so I remember I got there, and the very first day they were like, okay, we're gonna have a warm up. And the upperclassmen girls started us like on a run through the town, but I don't know this town and we're in the middle of nowhere. And
Wow.
they just took off, and I'm like, thank God they're wearing red shirts, because I wouldn't be able to keep up. I was like, what is this? And we trained, I mean, I went from training once or twice a week to training every single day except for Sunday,
Wow.
in Nebraska. And that's just what was done, you
Yeah.
know? And I think, and then getting in the weight room and understanding like this is a different part of the workout, and you have to be just as diligent with this too. By the time I finished university and then I went on to bobsleigh, then it was another step up where everybody was taking, their everything is just another level of heightened intensity. But I think for me, I had a few turning points, and the one for me that I always talk about is the year before the Olympic Games. So now I've moved out to Calgary. I had to move again. So I've moved about 12 times in my life. But I moved out to Calgary to train with the team and to be there because that was what was going to be best for me. And my coach was out there, and my training partners. And the year before the games, we had our world championships. So every year, no matter what, there's either a world championships or an Olympics. So we had our world championships, and we had 3 sleds at the world championships, and I made the third sled, but like barely made the third sled. And we knew at the time only 2 sleds would make the Olympic Games team, and there weren't going to be any like alternates or anything at these Olympics.
Right.
And so I remember like a well-meaning teammate saying like, okay, so do you want to like join my team as a spare? Because, like there's not going to be, you're not going to, at this point, you're probably not going to make the team. And I was like, dry, first of all. But then like, secondly, I thought, okay, I was like, okay. But I remember coming home, and at that point I'd been in Calgary for like a year and a half or thereabouts. And I came home, sat on the end of my bed, and I just thought about like, am I really doing everything that I need to do? Like, should I stop now? Because, track stopped and I loved that. And bobsleigh was awesome. I got to go all around the world and meet amazing people and have all these great experiences. But like at this point, I'm 2,000 kilometers away from the people who really love me, back here. And like, what am I really, should I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And I really had a real turning point where I decided that I had to ask myself, have I done everything that I could do to be the very best athlete that I could be? And the true answer at the bottom of my heart was no, right? Like you were great. I was a really good athlete, but was I the best athlete that I knew I could be? And the answer was truly no. And so I just had a season of training that beat all seasons, where I just decided like, I changed my goal from making the team to that goal, because I could actually make that goal happen. Someone else is going to determine whether I make the team. They're going to say you made the team or you didn't, but I could be the very best athlete that I could be. Yes. And if that athlete doesn't make the team, then I still have hit my goal, and I can walk away and be like, I did everything I could do. Yeah. So I mean, we used to do this type of therapy that was like ice tubs, and I would always skip them. And I was like, I'm not skipping not one ice tub. Oh, wow. And just all of we were doing, Mondays were 2-a-day workouts, Fridays were 2-a-day workouts. I pretty much ate, slept, and trained. That's what I did. And I was grateful to be able to do that. Just the intensity of some of the workouts would just leave me on the floor all the time. Dry needling, which is like kind of like acupuncture, except the needles are about that long instead of this long. And they just put it in and break up scar tissue so that you can be good enough to go again the next day. Like just hard things, saying no to pretty much everything, making sure I was in bed by 10:30 because I have to get up by 6:30 so I can eat breakfast so it's out of my system by 8:30. Just everything I could tell you on a Monday what I was going to eat on Friday at 3:00. I knew everything, and I just put it all out there, knowing that my goal, just that's that shift of goal was enabled me to be able to do that. And I remember at the time, CTV, because they had gotten the rights to the Olympics for the first time in a while, and their slogan was like, do you believe? And they would have like some high profile athlete would come out and then be like, cross their arms and be like, do you believe in living? And do that stare, and the music was all inspirational. And the weight room in Calgary had like a mirror on the back wall, like, but it was full mirror where the squat racks were.
Mhm.
And I just remember some Fridays, because by Friday you're just wiped. So it's the second workout of the day on Friday after a whole week of workouts. And you just want to go home,
Yeah.
and then the coach will be like, okay, you've done your first workout, now you've done your second workout sprinting part, and now we're in the weight room, and I would have to like have all this weight on my back, and I'd have to look at myself in the mirror and like ask that of myself. Like, do I believe, not just in me in sort of like this airy fairy kind of way, but do I believe that like what I'm doing right this second in this moment is going to lead me to my goal?
Oh, wow.
And if I do, then I got to do the work, right?
Yes, yes.
So yeah, it was a lot.
Wow. That is a lot. And I feel that based on what you said, a lot of it, like mindset is so vital, right?
Mhm.
Because you were determined to be the best athlete that you can be, and so therefore it helped you to shift and go deeper, or go with more intensity at the workouts that you had to do, and be on that rigid schedule for training, for eating, etc. And I'm sure that in terms of the discipline level too, having to say no to certain things just so that you can be focused, right, and being
Yeah.
able to achieve that goal. I love certain words that you were saying. It's another elevation, learning more and more, and heightened intensity. And sometimes with the goals that we have, ladies, those are the things that it may take of us to go another elevation, to learn more than we know now, and that the intensity may be heightened, and that it's for us to grow and for us to come closer to our goal, and to ask ourselves, as Shelley-Ann said, you know am I doing the best that I can do at whatever it is that I desire, whatever it is that my goal is. So that's great. You talked about challenges in terms of accomplishing the dreams, especially the one where you were talking about. I don't know if it was a teammate or something that just said, did you want to be a spare? But or in addition to that, were there other challenges as you planned to compete in the 2010 Vancouver Games that you came across, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Mhm. Yeah, there were. So physically, I had some back and hip issues. And
Okay.
so that was always flaring up. So very few people know, but the year of the games, I had about 4 cortisone injections into my hip,
Wow.
just to like, I was like, keep the ship together. Like,
Mhm.
I felt like feeling like the boat was going to break apart, but, um, just physically trying to keep it together. I think also there was a challenge of, um, you know, when you're around people like this, like in such a close community, and it was a wonderful, like, I have to say, like, you can't do something like this alone, knowing that you're trying to do something. Like, you have to have people
Mhm.
whose aim and whose goal is the same, like whose
Mhm.
mindset is the same. And I'm so grateful for my coaches, and my teammates, because we were like,
In sync.
yeah, we were in sync, but we also held each other up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that person striving for excellence inspired me striving for excellence, and then I'm inspiring that. So it was just constant. It was a constant. We excelled together,
Mm.
and we kept each other accountable in so many different ways as well. So we needed that. But the truth of it was that only some of us were going to make the team, but
Okay.
we were all capable.
Mhm.
And so that was really hard to see people that I loved, knowing that you're sort of competing for the same spots.
Yes.
And then at the end of it, that you want to rejoice for yourself, but you almost can't, because you know
Yeah.
you just know, no matter how it goes, you're going to rejoice for them, and be, need people to commiserate with you, or
Yeah.
you're going to rejoice for yourself and want to commiserate with them. So
Yes.
it was that was challenging as well.
Mhm.
Um, and that can bring out the best in people, but it can also bring out the worst in people, including within you.
Right.
And so it was a challenge. That was a challenge to navigate emotionally, but also I just, for me, I thank God for God. Like, I don't know.
Mhm.
I just don't know. I know at the Olympic Games, there was like an Olympic chaplain for the Olympic Village,
Right.
and he ran a series called Spiritual Readiness.
Mm.
And it was just talking about, like, you've trained and you're physically ready, but are you spiritually ready? And I'm grateful for just God's grace in that whole period of time,
Mhm.
um, because when I felt overwhelmed, I had somewhere to go. I could really cast my cares on Him, knowing that He cared for me, and
Mhm.
knowing that the vision, the purpose of my life was bigger than this. Even though this was a dream of mine and I would like it to happen, um, my value to Him is not based on this,
Right.
So yeah, so those were some challenges. I think also one really interesting experience that I had that leading up to that year as well was just recognizing, sometimes you are among a group of people and your vision or your goal is the same, but your approach is not the same. And
Mhm.
it can make you feel like an oddball if you are one of the people whose approach is not the same or whose feelings are not the same.
Right.
And sometimes I felt like, am I in the right spot? Am I supposed to be doing this? Because I don't feel like I have the natural, what some other people might have naturally. I don't think I have it. And then just recognizing, like, no, I'm actually exactly where I'm supposed to be. And now that I know how I operate, I can go ahead and do this the way that God designed me to do it. So, yeah.
Wow. So, ladies, you heard the various challenges that Shelley-Ann went through and also ways in which she has overcome. And one of them being able to depend on God to strengthen, to give grace, to be able to, when we're feeling or when she was feeling overwhelmed, to give our burdens or her burdens over to God to be able to help, to sustain, to strengthen. And then also the last point that she made, because I feel, Shelley-Ann, especially amongst women, that sometimes we may think, oh, I should be doing it like her or in that manner, etc. But to realize that we each have our own way of doing things. It could be the same type of goal, but to stay in our lane, to run the course that we need to run, and that it's okay that if we do things differently, you know what I mean, and to stay focused in that. And so I'm glad that you were able to share those different challenges, because as we go to accomplish our goal, our dreams, it's not easy. There are challenges, and sometimes we may just say, you know what, it's too much, forget it. But it's important to press through, to press on, because you don't know also who's watching, and also just what can come out of it, and for what can grow in us as character growth, you know what I mean, and for also for God to get the glory. And I love what you said about value, that no matter what happens through it all, that our value, um what how can I say, like, it doesn't depend on what happens, in terms of the result, our value and our worth in God. And I think that's so important, because sometimes we may think, okay, if I fail, that our value is less than, or our worth has decreased, right?
Mhm.
But God sees us still the same, and He
Yeah.
still loves us, and we're still
Yeah.
His daughters. And so, in you being in the Olympic Games, I wanted to share with the audience. I was reading an article about another lady, by the name of Cynthia Appia. Do you know her?
Yeah.
Okay. And so she has won medals too in the same Olympic sport, bobsleigh. And she was inspired by you, just like how you said you were inspired by Ben Johnson, sorry, by seeing you in the 2010 Olympic Vancouver Games. And in this article, this is what she stated. She said, I don't know if I would be where I'm at right now if I hadn't seen someone like me and Shelley-Ann Brown at the Vancouver Winter Games. But it's important that people can see themselves in their heroes. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, like I don't want to cry, so that's my first thought. But Cynthia's amazing. I actually did get a chance to. I went shortly after she joined the team. I met up with her yeah, and I got to have a talk with her and shared some whatever wisdom I had to give her. I shared, and then I just cheered her on from the sidelines since then. But yeah, I mean, it's been, sometimes you don't know. You don't know. I have a friend, one of my dear friends and my mentor in college. She always would say this. She's a brilliant, brilliant woman, and she would say, "You have." I'm paraphrasing. So you have no, you have you have no choice in the matter of whether you make an impact, but you have some choice in the matter of how. There's a rough paraphrase of her words, and sometimes as you're going along, like you don't know that you're having an impact on anybody else. You don't know that anybody's watching you, or even if they are watching you, how they're watching you, how they're taking that in, what that means to them. But hearing Cynthia's words and a few others, I have come across a few other articles of people who said, who've done things and then harkened back to, yeah, when Shelley-Ann Brown came and spoke at my school, and I'm like, first of all, am I that old? But then second, and I am. But secondly, just being like, oh, I'm a person that that's a memory for you. And
Mhm.
you're doing something amazing now, and you connect that dot to something that had anything to do with me is amazing and
Mhm.
humbling to me. Um, because I wasn't when I was training, when I was doing, I wasn't thinking, to be, if I'm honest, I wasn't thinking like, I'm gonna do this. And, I wasn't thinking that. I was just trying to do what I was doing. Um, and of course, my heart has always been for children and stuff like that, but I wasn't thinking, um, you know, anywhere near some of the impact that I have seen since then. And even right after the games, I remember doing sort of like you have to do kind of a media circuit. And we were in an interview, and at the games where I won silver medal, Canada also won the gold medal. So, which was amazing and historic as well, because that had never happened before. And so we were interviewed, but I wasn't really talking very much in this interview with all four of us. And suddenly, towards the end of the interview, one of the interviewers said, "Well, Shelley-Ann, how do you feel knowing that you've made history?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "You are the first Black Canadian woman to win a medal at a Winter Games." And I was like, "Oh, what?" Like instant waterworks. So just you just don't ever really know, what God is going to use your particular gift for and
Mhm.
how long you're going to have it. I just feel very, like when I think about it, I feel very blessed that I had an opportunity to be involved, not just to make an Olympic team is big, but
Mhm.
to make it when you're young enough to do it, and you've done it, and then it's happened in your home country, which
Yes.
is which is amazing. And then it just so happened to be that these sets of circumstances, because my parents, however many years ago, I won't tell you how many years ago, decided to, immigrate here, and they're watching me.
Mhm.
It must have just been so surreal to see my dad, in the stands, and my parents in the stands, and they're just surrounded by cheering people, and they're bundled up with like all of my old Adidas clothes, like just like cheering, cheering. And this is all happening. And it's amazing to think like where we're coming from,
Yeah.
and that I'm getting to experience this, and that people can look at this and say, I'm gonna be like that too, in whatever way they want to be like that, is super overwhelming, super humbling, and I'm very, very grateful. And I just I'm thankful for it. Yeah.
Thank you for that transparency and vulnerability in what you shared about the impact that you've had on others, but that it's had on you as
Yeah.
well. Um, and talking about impact and the impact of a dream. Can you share with us probably just one story as we're coming to a close, the impact that you've had on the Olympic sport, bobsleigh, as a Black woman? And it's funny that you said that the journalist or whoever it was that said that to you, that you made the history of that particular year, 2010. Do you have any other story that you want to share in regards to that?
Yeah, actually, one that was interesting. So shortly after the games, the whole Canadian Olympic team was invited to um, meet the Prime Minister, and then we went to a parade in Montreal. We were on like floats, and it was this whole amazing, wonderful to do. And so I was there on the float with some of my teammates, and we were just, waving our flags and just having fun with each other. Um, and my teammate on the men's team, Lyndon Rush, it was like, Shelley, and he had like tears in his eyes. And he was like, did you see those two girls? And I just glimpsed them like as we passed them. But he said, I saw them and I knew as soon as I saw them that they were waiting for you. And it was just like, it was two little Black girls in Montreal that I don't know. And as our, like, they were looking like for the float that had me on it. And when they saw the float, they ran from where they were to wave at our float. And he was like, I saw them like stand there, see you, point and run to get to your float and to wave. And he was like, that's so cool. And I was like, you already know I'm an easy crier. Stop this. so, but yeah, that was, that was the first instance for me, and the beginning of just like, oh, this is pretty amazing. Um, and I hope, I know Cynthia, she's going to go on to inspire people too. Like her mission right now is, okay, Black women are in this sport. Let's get into the driver's seat. We've been brakemen. Let's be pilots. And she's going to be amazing. I believe that if she continues on, she will represent Canada again, and she'll bring home her own hardware from the Olympics as well, and have her own story to tell. So I'm grateful to be part of the tapestry, of this, because there were people before me too,
Yeah.
then, but also even in my sport, and women even in the sport. It's a relative to the men's side, it's a new sport for women. So I'm a part of it, but grateful to be so. Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love just the term that you used in terms of being part of the tapestry, And so as we are coming to an end, and ladies have been watching this episode or just tuning in to Dare to Dream Part 3 with Shelley-Ann Brown, an Olympic silver medalist in the Vancouver Winter Games 2010. Um, can you just share, there may be a lady who's watching who's like, I have this big dream, and I just need some encouragement. Can you, whatever it is in your heart, can you give a word of encouragement to the lady who's listening?
Yeah. um, I would say whatever dream I know that you have this dream and it's dear to your heart. Um, know that you are resilient, and you come from a line of resilient people. So you may get knocked down, but don't let it knock you out. Keep getting up, keep going, and you will surprise yourself what continuously continuing, where it ends up. Every single long journey begins and ends with one step. So keep on taking that one step. Um, when you get knocked down, know that it's a part of the process. Know that you learn, that your perceived failures, you learn as much from those as you do from the easy, as you learn more from those than you do from any sort of easy success. I always, at the end of when I'm speaking, I show my medal to the kids, but I always tell them, like, this sits in the sock drawer. So at the end of the day, what's really dear is all the lessons I learned along the way, and just know that what you are crafting right now in your journey to your dream are the things that you're going to hold dear at the end. That's what you're really going to hold dear, and that's what's going to continue to set you apart, and it's going to build great character in you. So keep going, Be like water. Find a way to get through, get over it, get around it. You can do it.
That's awesome. It's so inspiring. I love it. And so, ladies, this episode, Dare to Dream Part 3 with Shelley-Ann Brown, her journey in being part of the Olympic team and just the other accomplishments that she has accomplished along the way to where she is today is an episode that you will want to watch again and share with somebody else to encourage somebody else and to be empowered. Shelley-Ann, thank you so much for what you brought to the table today, for what you shared, for being transparent. And I pray that in as you continue along the journey with whatever endeavors you have in mind and in your heart, that I pray a spirit of excellence upon you,
Thank you.
and that you will achieve the dreams that you still have yet to accomplish. And
Thank you.
so thanks for joining us tonight, ladies. And just want to remind you, if you haven't subscribed yet to Rise with Hope, please hit the subscribe button. And our next set of episodes for the month of October will be on community.